Hello.
Like,
This is going to be one of those shows. Hello and welcome to the Social Recruiting Show. I'm Katrina Collier. I'm, of course, author of The Robot Proof Recruiter, which I do not show at all very often, really, honestly, truly, just for you, Ian Franklin. And I'm also a facilitator and speaker, and, of course, have recently launched the Robot Proof Recruiter Mastermind and Certification, which I'm so excited about. I'm, of course, joined by my gorgeous, talented talent acquisition professional co-host, the one, the only, the amazing Glenn Martin. Welcome,
Hola.
Glenn. Hello. I was going to let you all know that Glenn Martin, amazingly, is actually free to hire on the 1st of June, but I've seen his shirt. I'm not sure about that now. Sorry, rude Friday, typical show. Anyway, today should be a very, very interesting topic because we're talking about career advice, which I personally think is crap, and that we've aimed it badly at Gen Z, so it's super crap. With fabulous, now I keep forgetting your surname, Samantha Hornsby and Mae Yip. I keep forgetting your surname, Sam. I'm so sorry. Welcome to the Social Recruiting Show.
Welcome.
thanks, guys.
No, I had to look down and cheat. Dreadful.
That's funny. Well, welcome to the show, both of you. And like I said, I'm really excited about this one, quite simply because neither of you are from a recruitment background. So this does take us into different territory, which is really, really cool. But as Katrina said, this is really around kind of what is broken, which is career advice. And as I said to you before the show, right, I'm thinking about my niece now. She's like 16. What's her next step? She should have been doing, effectively her exams. And both of you have actually put together, I mean, is it a business? Is it a social enterprise? But it's born out of that kind of frustration around poor career advice. So it'd be cool to just kind of get a bit of context around how Eric came into being, which is obviously your company. So over to you, whoever wants to start first. Who usually takes on that question first?
No, if someone doesn't want to answer a question, they'll be like, May, I think you should take this one. So off you go.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. So Sam and I have actually been best friends since we were 8, which is always awesome. A very nice story. And so obviously we grew up together and had very similar, careers advice, careers support. But I think as we got older, we both kind of ended up in completely different careers. I actually went down the kind of accounting route, mainly because of, I guess, my Asian background and my parents. They're first generation Chinese. So they worked really hard to kind of, I guess, get us alive here. And they were always, stable career, doctor, lawyer, accountant, that was it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was also really good at maths. So, naturally I was like, accounting is good for me. It suits me. And so I ended up going down accounting. And Sam actually ended up not going to uni. She went straight into London, found work. You worked at a tech startup, didn't you? You were their first ever employee.
Yeah.
So completely different, I guess, experiences. But we both just weren't happy. Do you know what I mean? Like we were in those roles for a couple of years. And as best friends do, we always used to meet up and complain. And we were just like, what happened? We were both, I think, oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say, so, I mean, you both took completely different career paths. Obviously, May, for you, it sounds like certainly that kind of family influence shaped your thinking about where you were going. Sam, sounds like you just thought bright lights, big city, let's go up there, wicked, let's go for it. But actually, when you think about, school to maybe sort of college or university, what career advice did you have? I mean, can you quantify it in any way, shape or form? What was it, if anything?
Yeah, like none, basically. I mean, barely anything. And I just remember, everyone's done these, those personality tests that you do, or those career tests that you do when you're at school. And it's like, either you can be a doctor, accountant, or an architect. I don't know what architect always comes up. And so it's like anyone vaguely creative, they're like, okay, well, you can that into buildings, So I think that's kind of the majority of the career advice we really had. May actually wanted to get into fashion. She wanted to be a fashion designer when she was younger.
The accounting family would not have liked that.
Yeah, they
exactly.
wouldn't have liked that.
I was hiding the drawings.
Everyone always maintains she was the best dressed person at PwC. So.
Well, there you go. There's something to certainly hang on to. Trophy, definitely trophy. So, born out of this frustration of career advice, you started talking about, I guess, an idea, and that idea has now become a company. But just tell us that I guess, you know, what does Eric deliver now? You know, broad brand of career advice, but actually it's more than that. So, what are you both doing now?
Yeah, so I guess, like, in terms of that careers advice at school, I think the thing that really kind of got to us was that we were both really creative, and that was what was missing in the careers advice. Is that actually there was, you know, careers advice and support, but it was mainly aimed towards the corporate roles.
Yeah.
And
so
then, you
out
know,
of interest, what kind of school were you at? Were you at a grammar school, or I have no idea what they're called here. Sorry,
like
I know what they are in Australia.
School?
I'm just like a government-run school, or what sort of? Because I'm curious, because it would differ.
Yeah, we were both at private school, and I think that's quite demonstrative of how kind of bad the situation is. Like, if you're paying money, and they can't provide good careers advice, in such a fortunate position. I mean, I can only imagine how hard it must be for everyone else. You know. So I think that's
definitely.
Well, actually, I would have thought that, though, because they're impacted by the government with GDP, and they're pushing everyone to go to university into these big degrees because of the government. So I'm actually not surprised that's the only advice you got, because, you know, you even want you go off and do an apprenticeship or something else, you know, completely different. I mean, that was exactly the same. I went to private school in Australia. It was exactly the same. It was only the high level professions they pushed anyone towards. However, I have to add that Liz Dowling, who's of similar age, actually she's a bit younger than me, it was suggested tree surgery or hairdresser to her. So there's a random combination of she should have gone. I feel the need to share that on this show at some point.
No, I love
that. Can you imagine?
So born out of this frustration comes Eric. Tell us about the business.
Exactly.
What are you doing?
The one thing was careers fairs. That was the one thing. Out of all of the careers advice and support, we just couldn't believe that career fairs hadn't been updated. And so Sam and I basically decided to come up with a alternative career fairs called Eric Festival. So it's really, really engaging. It's actually fun to go to. You know, there's no more free pens. There's no more like boring like leaflets that literally give you no information. It's talks, it's workshops, it's immersive, it's engaging. You know, there's live music, there's people who look like you, representation, all of these things that I think any young person, you know, would want. So that's kind of Eric Festival.
That's cool. And just a little bit more broadly around the kind of workshop. So, you know, what do you get into? Because I remember career fairs when I was looking, right? You go around a load of basically branded kind of stores and stuff like that, and you talk briefly to a representative of that business, and you may get an option to apply to something, or, you know, maybe a brochure, a t-shirt, all that sort of thing. And that's pretty much it. It's kind of a numbers game, and it's pretty underwhelming. So how does the festival you created different? How is it immersive?
So we make it inherently creative, basically. So it kind of reflects the creativity of the industries that we're talking about. So for a start, I mean, the type of companies that come along to our events are the companies that would never really go to a normal careers fair because they're not being represented in the way that they want to. So we have loads.
It's super expensive to get a slot at those.
Very true.
As well.
Very true. So we get loads of like super creative companies, some really big ones, some, you know, like really small ones. We have a couple of rules that everyone basically has to abide by. So number one is that you have to do something interactive that ideally represents some part of what you do as a business. There is a massive issue with explaining companies. Like the advertising industry is perfect. So like, young people literally have no idea what advertising is. Even though they see an advert, they're like, what is a creative? What is a planner? What is all this kind of stuff? And the term agency is so vague anyway. It's like, what are they meant to think? So we are so core on context. It's so important that all of our young people, all of the companies I
think it's really cool she's finishing her sentence while she's closing off the messaging app. That's very cool.
Closing off WhatsApp.
I have to show this. Sorry, Susan Heaton-Rice. This is just hilarious. You know, we're talking about like career advice being crap. I was given advice based on my gender.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Susan and I are similar age. Yeah, but that was normal. That was normal. You're female, you'd be a nurse. So, like truly, I mean, I know you guys think career advice is crap, but let's just have a moment to think about this. My mother was born in 1938, okay? So she was told when she was 21 and she got engaged, she was working in the bank, that she had to leave the bank. She was engaged, full stop.
Wow.
Not married. She had to leave the bank. So actually in a really short period of time, we've actually come a really long way, but I do agree career advice is crap. But and also in her day, so it was be a nurse, be a teacher, be a wife. What else have I missed? It was like maybe work in a store. You know, there was very little. By the time I was leaving school at 17, there was a plethora. And of course, now there's another plethora and jobs are constantly changing. So I hear what you're saying.
What I like about what you said, though, Sam, is the fact that you're asking businesses to illustrate what roles are about. So it's about an education for the person that's actually looking. Because let's be fair, again, your perception of a role when you're at school, secondary school, college, is possibly completely different to actually the reality of that role. And actually, let's be fair, even if you read a job spec, that's not the true representation of a role, right? So actually going to something where you can be educated about the industry and the types of roles in it sounds extremely powerful to me. And actually, how many companies do an absolute crap job of really illustrating what they do, the types of opportunities that are available? They think job spec's good enough, bang, out it goes onto a website. Or
the 3-year-old job spec.
Yeah, the 3-year-old job. Yeah, let's dust it down and stick it out. Maybe change a couple of bullet points.
Sorry, minor plug. They have not read chapter 5. Right. I didn't write chapter 5, by the way.
and I've noticed both of you as well are kind of evolving now. So there's an app-based proposition plugged into it now. So you're actually looking at the physical and the digital, which I think is you know, I mean, yeah, admittedly, there's a lot of digital options out there, but in terms of your format, you're trying to address both, right? Certainly, given current climate, where we can't actually go anywhere at all.
This was based solely on large social gatherings, so that is not a good place to be.
Yeah, not a good place to be.
I've got a question here from Lewis, which is really quite cool. Do you think we should be teaching our young people that it's okay to try different things? I speak to so many young people who feel pressured and overwhelmed to choose a career.
Oh my God.
Lewis, I only worked it out at 39. Sorry.
Yeah. I think the uni thing is really interesting. Like, I didn't go to uni, and as a result, I was able to try like 3 different office jobs within the space of the time that I would have gone to uni. And I learned, I would argue, I learned more than the majority of people that went to uni. Obviously, I'm going to argue that, because otherwise I'd be like, I wasted 3 years. But
I don't have a degree. I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm doing all right.
Amazing, like job hopping for a short period of time is incredible. And also it teaches you so many different skills, transferable skills as well. You work out what works for you and what doesn't. And I do think that there is a huge amount of effort that people put into finding, or like trying to find their calling in life, when actually I'm a huge believer in the fact that people are just aiming for a lifestyle choice at the end of the day. And actually we should be looking more at trying different jobs that give you different lifestyles, so that you can work out what's best for you. I
agree. If you go back to, like I was saying about it's GDP, isn't it? Is that what it's called? I can't think what it's called. It's gone out of my head. Sorry. I've had one of those weeks. Something to do with this pesky little virus. Anyway, moving on. Right. That I haven't had, by the way. It's just like making life very interesting, isn't it? So I went to, I mean, God, I'm going back years, probably 4 or 5 years, went to an apprenticeship event. And here was this girl at a grammar school, again, being pushed only in one direction, where actually she wanted to go and learn, like you're saying, like hands-on in the world of work. She wanted to do this, but her grammar school was saying, no, you have to go, because it was to their benefit because of the government pushing. Yeah, so we definitely, and because then getting the parents to listen is also tough.
Yeah,
and I think it's
a really good point about the different types of learning. I'm such a kinetic learner. Like I need to be learning by doing, and absolutely, you need never have worked. Also, I hate authority. So, I mean,
she's a future one-person company, isn't she? Like me.
Oh, yeah.
You don't even need a business partner then. You can just do what you want.
Suffers a lot.
One thing I'm curious about within the events that you have, I mean, and I noticed kind of on your website, you know, there were stories from people that have attended about how they've struggled to kind of access the industry sector. And thank you, Audra.
Audra, if you've been on time, you would have heard that earlier on. No, yes. Actually, I was seeing I've already interrupted you. Hi, Shamila. Hi, Vanessa. Simon Irving, hello. And I've got a hairdresser from Liz Falstead, but I can't remember what that was in relation to. So Liz might have to write a bit more. Sorry, this is how the show goes. Cool. It's not at all serious.
Exactly. But yeah, I noticed on your website sort of people's feedback around how to access, you know, is there within the event, is there workshopping to help them access, and maybe workshopping to help them kind of either put together a kind of a portfolio or anything along those lines? Is that part of the makeup of what you deliver?
Mae has to answer this one.
Oh, yeah, Mae's definitely on the spot for this one.
No, we definitely do. I mean, the content that we have at the event, it's different every time. So we don't have, you know, a workshop that we do at every festival. But the one thing that we are really keen about is career and self-development. So we think that that's just hugely important as well. Not just about, you know, what career you want to get into and how you get into that industry, but it's also about building your confidence, you know, so that you can eventually go and also just work out who you are, you know, and back to that kind of personality test. It's like everyone is a different person. And I think actually sometimes at school and university, you do kind of lose sight of actually, you know, what's my identity here? And like, if you learn about, yourself, then it's just so much easier to kind of help you in your next steps and career-wise.
Definitely.
It keeps changing though.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not taking from what you're doing, at least you're starting people off earlier, but honestly, it took me to 40 to even start working on all of this stuff and really discovering who I am. And now as I get awfully close to 50, it's like I finally know who I am and what I'm about, what direction I want to go. But it is a journey, and totally. I think it's the case of being open to learning that as well.
And maybe, you know, illustrating very early on, like Sam said, you know, that kind of private school or you know, public school is kind of take this linear path and you'll be successful. Linear path, college, university, job, you know, entry level, manager, etc. Or ultimately, you graduate from uni, get yourself on a grad program, get yourself into an internship. It's all linear, and it's almost carbon copying. And to Mae's point, right? If you can promote, that kind of, you know, process of getting to know yourself, the self-development, that's okay. It's okay not to know all the answers now, but actually, school and education wise promotes you to have an answer, have a plan, have a pathway.
Doesn't that also go back to, like, actually just small plug for our fabulous sponsor, Enterprise Alumni? Thank you. I don't think we'd be able to keep the show going without you. So thank you very much. You know, he's talking about people that leave an organization because they don't feel they can move. They're given a linear path through the company as well. And hence, you know, the need to map across who's got skills and as well.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. We've got a lot of work to do. So how are you adjusting and taking this in such a way that you're like, because obviously I run events, so I'm sitting here going, I feel for you. What's the plan for the rest of 2020? Because let's be honest, we're not going to be anywhere near each other for the rest of the year. I know that sounds horrific, but no, I can't see us hugging anytime soon.
All about hugging, so yeah.
Say that again. Oh, you're keen aesthetic like me, aren't you? We'll be in there. I only just met you. Have you thought about what you're going to do?
So I think we're developing an app, and it's basically going to be focused around career and self-development, and also a discovery app for young people to find out about companies they've literally never heard of before, because that's another massive problem that we've discovered with our audience. We are always asking them, so tell us your top companies, what were the top 3 companies you want to apply for? And they're like, BBC, Channel 4 and ITV. We're like, great, okay, but there's, you know, thousands of other companies you can apply for, and your chances of getting it are probably higher. So, so it's really important to us that we're able to open up their eyes to companies that they just would never have come across otherwise. And we think that there's only so many people you can get in an event, and so actually it feels like the app is like the next natural step to us being like, here's a whole world of companies never heard of.
The under oh wow, I'm doing really well today, aren't I? The not known, the unknown, there's the word.
The unknown. There you go.
Hey, look, sorry, again, roller coaster of a week. Those unknown companies, what are some of the stuff that, I mean, full stop, they should be sharing, let alone to, you know, this demographic? What are they missing? What are they not doing? I mean, we talk about employer branding, but maybe they're not, they're probably just sharing the wrong stuff. What are you looking for or hoping to see from them?
Well, sorry, Maz, I know I keep
no, oh my god, no, go for it.
The Mae's like, oh my god, don't. No,
I love it. No, I'm loving it. I'm more of a listener.
I'm just gonna nod. I just didn't nod.
You answer this.
We haven't actually had two guests on before, so Glenn and I are like, oh my god.
No, I haven't thought about the question.
Well, okay, well, I do remember it, so I will answer. So,
what are companies not sharing that you wish they were sharing? How's that? Is that easier? Sorry, I did go. It took me 10 minutes to get unknown out. So
you kind of structured it in the way I'd structure a question. To be fair, Katrina, clearly I'm rubbing off on you a little bit.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Anyway, you might want to answer the question now, Sam.
And then, Mae, I will hand the second part over to you. There are a couple of things that we do find that companies constantly do that do make it quite frustrating for young people, and it switches them off immediately. So this is just being slightly patronising or authoritative, and it's often something that companies fall into. And I think it's because a lot of decision makers, we've been trying to work it out for years, like why this is happening. And we think it's because a lot of the decision makers have kids themselves. And so they're used to talking to young people in a certain way. And so I mean, that's just a theory. Like, it's not at all been proven. It's the only thing that we can kind of...
Oh, I'll give another one in a second.
But that's kind of part of the whole vibe with Eric, really, is that trying really hard not to be at all across like an authority figure. Very, very peer-to-peer. So like our audience, we pay our audience all the time to like help us with content that we want to put out, so that it's much more like just like, you know, a friend talking to a friend. But
so what age group are the approximately? Sorry, I'm not being ageist, okay? Anyone before you shoot me down? What kind of age group are the people giving the advice? I mean, are we talking people in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s? I'm generalizing, but I'm curious.
So it's actually peer-to-peer, so it's 16 to 25. So
they're being patronising.
Oh, sorry.
No, I think you're talking about the companies, aren't you, Katrina?
Yeah, that's what. Because that's our audience. So I'm trying to find out what they should be sharing. And you're saying they tend to be patronising. So I'm trying to find out what age group they are to answer your question as to why they do that. Because I think I know why.
It tends to be like management level who are basically tough on things, and they de-risk stuff a lot. It's totally fair. You know, like they are within a culture of a company where essentially everything about a business is always about, you know, de-risking stuff and making stuff as close as possible. So it makes sense. But that they are de-risking it. But I think they're subconsciously, maybe they're de-risking it by being like, we don't want to, we're talking to it like we're talking to the audience like we would talk to our own children, because entry level talent is often seen as like 18 to 22.
I suppose
kind of grads.
But okay.
What's your theory, Katrina?
Our age group. We started at the bottom, and we were prepared to start at the bottom. And unfortunately, grossly generalizing and offending many people who are listening to this, there are many grads that come out who expect to start in a much, much higher position than we all started in. So there is a little bit of friction still going on in that. So that will be some of it. I'm not saying they intentionally do that, but there'll be this like, oh, for goodness sake, can't they just start at the bottom and do what they're told like we had to?
so fair.
Subconsciously, that
I think that's a really fair point. I completely agree. I think that there's a disconnect, definitely a generational like gap in education, and I completely like see that.
Yeah. I mean, a lot. I talk about this a lot. So Glenn and I grew up before the internet created what we call transparent, or what I call transparency. So I started in my very first job at my first proper job. I had world jobs before that for like 6 years, but anyway, proper job at 21. And the second in charge of the branch of the bank I just happened to end up in, because I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, used to be sick at lunchtime from the stress that the manager put her under, like literally be sick. And we stayed because we couldn't go to the internet and Google bank jobs, Sydney, bang, and see a million, right? So we stayed. The internet has like opened the door to companies and really shown what it's like. It's shown all the jobs that are out there. And of course, it's given you the opportunity to create all of these careers. So for Glenn and my generation and older, it's actually like really tough for us to kind of understand how different the world is, unless we immerse ourselves in it like we do in recruitment. But for many other managers, they don't understand that you can see this plethora and you don't have to have that kind of experience.
Definitely.
I think like just one. Oh, sorry.
Mae,
go. You're meant to be the guest.
Go.
Ranting about generations.
I think just one of the things that we've learned and what we kind of advise for kind of companies who get involved in our events is obviously we want the managers to come in because they obviously understand the business, they can offer that their advice, but we also encourage them to bring the interns, the apprentices that they just hired, because it's like you want the balance of advice there, you want the relevancy of those who have just got the job, who can relate to our audience and be like, how did you get the job, with the expertise of the managers. So it's kind of both.
I think that's a great way to approach it. I just want to come back to Sam's point, because I think you're right. I think tone of voice, that tone of the company tone of voice, sometimes is just singular, isn't it? It's just kind of like a single tone of voice. Don't differentiate in terms of the type of employee they're looking to perhaps recruit, unless it's C-suite and above, right? And it's kind of, if you look at the cross section of kind of grad application kind of forms and even the job specs, it's like you will be taught, you will do. It makes no assumption that you're bringing any skills or knowledge to the table at all. Just assumes that you are going to be a blank canvas to learn, which I think is it's not accurate, because clearly you may, so say for instance, we were talking before the show, like you may be hiring somebody that's got their own podcast, right? Who's got their own kind of vlog. They've created stuff that people are engaging with.
Yeah, but remember,
there's a tangible value to that. What's that?
We didn't have that. So if it's managers in our age group, we didn't have the ability to do that. So we don't expect them to have done it because we don't. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's
I'm playing devil's advocate. I told you I was going to do that.
I know you are. But I think, to your point, Sam, what advice would you give to companies around that kind of tone of voice? If you were certainly looking to engage that kind of sort of 16 to 18 to 26 sort of age group, what advice would you give them?
I think there's like a couple of things that we say before anything. Branding, the way you brand it is so important, and it's so easy to slip into that corporate look. It is. It's a thing, like it's been your world for the last however many years. Do you know what I mean? Like I totally did it when I was at the tech company that I was working at before. Like it is interesting how institutionalized you get so quickly, I think. Yeah. And I think branding is just the number one thing that, it has to be eye-catching. It has to look youthful, and it's so easy not to do that. The second thing is, actually, this is kind of like Mae's, this is her kind of like call to reason. Is that a phrase that people use? If I just made that up.
Let's roll with it.
You roll with that.
I can't say unknown. You can use call to reason.
Call to reason.
Mae's always, adamant about representation. That's something, obviously that like failed her when she was younger. Use it like the pictures that you use, like just make sure that people are represented in them. And then jargon is, oh my gosh, I find myself doing it all the time. It's things like account manager. What is an account manager?
Generic.
What that means. And it's just, using words that you would use to your colleagues, but outside of that bubble, young people, they've never worked before.
And one of the biggest things that young people have said, they're like, have the people who are recruiting, like, have they actually done the application process themselves? Because
they've read my book.
If they have, they would realize, like, how long and maybe repetitive or there isn't a chance to really show your personality.
Oh yeah, actually, and there's one thing that we always notice that companies do is that they put out a job application and it will be a click-through thing or something, and they'll be assuming that people will apply on their phones, but people don't apply on their phones. They just don't. Like, you sit down, it's something that you dedicate your time to. Or like young people still sit down at a laptop or a desktop and they're like, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to dedicate time to it, write a proper email. You need both hands. So, just like user experience is really important as well.
And I think another point is that tone.
That does depend on country though, but that's really interesting because we usually have the opposite problem. They're not mobile friendly. So people want to just send their CV in and they can't upload it. So that's quite interesting. Opposite point.
You're going to say, Mae?
And another thing with like the company tone is that what we've also kind of noticed is that if you're talking in a kind of corporate language, then the young people think that that's what you want to hear. So they're not actually being authentic to who they are. They're just assuming or trying to be the perfect candidate based on your tone and your language that you're using.
That's so interesting because it, like you say, the application process makes you, again, assume a kind of identity or a way of representing yourself that's uniform for the company and makes it easier for the company to kind of judge, are you a good fit, as opposed to actually really exploring you as an individual.
Exactly. And they know that they're using algorithms. You know what I mean? They know that they're looking for the buzzwords. So they're just putting in the buzzwords that they think that will help them.
Oh, when they're trying to get through like applicant tracking systems and videos. And all that. It's funny you say that because I just go back to that thought of my mum, right? So it's 1959, I must be talking around that year, that she got engaged and had to leave the bank. So you're talking in such a short period of time. You're now wanting companies to be relaxed. And it's only started happening again since the internet, and really only over the last 10 years. I mean, if I get the train up into town back in the day when one could do that, crammed in like sardines, people were no longer wearing suits unless that technically they were IT recruiters or worked in the bank maybe. It was very obvious who was who. But people have only started to dress down in the last 5 to 10 years. So it's you're now wanting these big companies who don't know how to do that. Like I have this conversation with them all the time. They don't know how to be themselves. They don't know how, but I can't. People won't take me seriously. It's like, well, why not? I agree with what you're saying, Mae, but it's like, we've come a long way.
No, definitely.
Actually, coming back to Katrina, your point around, kind of how companies, view, kind of individuals coming in, applying and stuff like that. And we were talking about it before the show, right? Side hustles. Everybody sort of says, oh, it's a side hustle when you do a kind of podcast or a blog and all that sort of thing. But actually, wouldn't it be great to be able to actually put that onto an application? So if the companies aren't looking for it, at least they're asking whether you do it, right? So it's something you can offer up and kind of illustrate, because I think then it starts to show you as an individual and some of your technical capability, which they've made an assumption you have none. And immediately, you're editing, you're creating content and stuff like that. Is that something you promote at the events to bring those sort of things to the forefront?
Yeah, definitely. Well, because obviously we're kind of focusing towards a more creative demographic, and that's what creative people do. They create. So we really want to push that. To show employers. And also these young people, I think the one thing that bugs me when I was applying, it was like, what experience do you have when you're 18? Do you know what I mean? I only like working in a pub or working in a cafe. That's all I have.
Kentucky Fried Chicken, baby.
But then
KFC. One doesn't call it that anymore.
They always offer experience. how you know, as a young person, you're going to get experience. But if you can show that you've been creating on the side, you've been creating a podcast, videos, I don't know, whatever, surely that shows your talent and the potential.
Yeah,
that you
Lewis
have.
Mallow agrees with you. Young people need to spend serious time thinking about how to sell their best selves. The world is not fair, and it never will be. And because you're saying that, and what I'm thinking is, actually, I would be inclined to circumnavigate. I would be like looking for the person who would be my future boss and approaching them directly and say, you know, I'm doing all of these things, and I feel they'd be of an asset to your firm. And I'd be avoiding going in with the 500 people that have applied for that one role. But I'm naughty like that.
Stand out.
I'd be looking to go the naughty route. That sounded wrong.
Well,
anyway.
Of course.
Of course.
Well, the rebellious
Sam,
route or the
not
non-traditional
manageable.
route.
The non-traditional
cool.
route. Thank you, Glenn. Yes, it goes with the bananas.
Exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. But to the subject of podcasts, Sam, and your digital time capsule that I called it, it probably makes it sound a bit crap actually, but it's really, really cool. Tell us a bit about that.
Oh, that was great. So over lockdown, Mae and I have both been kind of thinking, oh, well, you know, we should start some little side projects, side hustles. Yeah, on the subject of side hustles. And when we first went into lockdown, I literally, I mean, as everyone was doing, having phone call after phone call with all of your relatives and friends and everything, and just kind of chatting non-stop. And everyone was coming up with their own theories about like how we might be living afterwards, you know, like how this might change our lives forever and stuff like that. Everything you could possibly imagine, every topic about coronavirus, everyone has an opinion. It's amazing. And everyone is qualified for like the first time, I feel, you know, we're all going through this thing together. Everyone is having their own kind of personal experience of it. And so I became absolutely obsessed with listening to everyone's opinions, like obsessed with it. And I loved it so much that I basically asked everyone to start sending me in voice notes onto my WhatsApp. So my number is spread out across the internet now, so I might have to change it at some point.
Why?
Well, I don't know.
Is there anything more irritating than someone not being contactable? Good for you. Put it out there. Mine's everywhere. I love the people that go, what's your number? And it's like literally on my LinkedIn profile, and they just message me on LinkedIn. I'm like, really? Really? It's like, anyway, sorry.
Everyone to like send me voice notes about their predictions. I started off with predictions for how we'd be living, how lockdown might change our lives forever. Yeah. And I just had all these unbelievable people, so like strangers basically, sending me all of their opinions. And I've literally, it's been amazing. And so I cut them into like little mini kind of like 5 to 10 minute episodes. And I've kind of progressed. I've done like 9 episodes now. But it's just been absolutely fascinating. And I've, I'm really enjoing it. It's cool. Just, yeah.
So Mae, do you have a plan for when Sam goes off and becomes podcast queen and leaves like the business is all yours? What's the plan? Have you got your own side hustle?
Well, I actually started my own podcast as well. I don't know why we both decided to do podcasts, but basically, they're really popular, and I guess we both had a random mic in our flat, so we decided to do that. There it is.
You guys live in the same flat?
No, we're not. I know.
No.
Sorry, I was like, this is really weird. They've tuned in on 2 different computers then, but anyway. We're in different rooms, isn't it? Sorry. Yeah. You said the random mic. That's anyway. Sorry, I'll just shut up. I'm having a very strange Friday.
No, I'm so happy it's Friday. So my podcast is basically interviewing other Asians, and I want to kind of redefine the Asian stereotype, because I was born here, so I'm a British-born Chinese, but I never really actually had many Asian friends, or I never really came across that many Asians. So I really wanted to kind of go find some. It's called Phenomenal and Asian, so trying to find phenomenal Asians doing phenomenal things.
That sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. Sam, what's the name of your podcast? Come on, you got to give it a plug.
Yeah, it's called What the World Thinks, or WTW for short. It's not that short, really. I mean, thanks.
WTW, love an acronym. Can't beat that. And in terms of Eric, you got to give that a plug as well. Where can people find Eric and both of you online?
So
yeah.
So Eric, we're on the website is meet-eric.co, and when you go on the homepage you can see loads of our young people. So we post like a quote from a young person from our audience every day, so it's just quite interesting just to have a scroll through. On our Instagram we're at Eric Festival, and
why Eric, by the way? We haven't got to why Eric.
It's an acronym.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, of course it is. Bloody children. Right. Sorry, no kidding. What's it called? Sorry, that was really rude. I was joking. What's Eric stand for?
Yeah, you go, Maz, because I actually can't remember. I don't think.
Empower. It stands for empower, represent, immerse, create. So it's kind of the journey, journey that you go through as a young person if you come join the Eric community. But we also just thought it was hilarious because you don't think of careers when you think of Eric, and Eric isn't. I don't really know any young people called Eric.
No, that's a really old name, and actually, honestly, yeah. By the way, I'm fully not joking. It is my paternal grandfather's name, and I'm not joking. Anyway, no, maternal grandfather's. My mum's dad. Yeah, and I'm not joking. Sorry. Yeah, truly. Una and Eric. There you go. Una.
Oh, I like that name. I know
that was my grandmother's name. Bless, that was just way too much information. And no, I didn't say their surname just in case you were wanting to do my ID. Right, so just really quickly, because we're running out of time. I can't believe how fast this goes. Next week we have Jennifer Tate, who is going to be talking about onboarding, who owns it, HR or TA. So that could be a lot of fun. It's got another different background, but yeah, well, I think both own it now, don't they? You don't do the pre-board. Don't do the pre-board bit right. They don't start. So,
well, as a recruiter, I'd say we own it, but you know.
Oh, as a recruiter,
we'll save that to next week.
From the 1st of June, which is the first time he's been available. Actually, the entire time I've known him. So quick, grab Glenn.
Yeah.
Right. Was that nice? So you're going to split
that was nice.
That thing, right?
Yeah.
Was there anything you guys felt like you wanted to say that you didn't get to say because the show went so damn fast?
End notes. Big statement time.
Big statement. Oh God, we should really have prepared for this. Maz, come on.
Oh, Liz Nevitt likes Eric. I like Eric. Liz Nevitt. She actually wrote Eric, I like, but I'm deliberately saying it the other way because it sounds funnier. Oh, and Liz Felsted, her dad's called Eric. How hilarious.
There we go. We've got a whole hashtag Eric stuff here. But I mean,
no one called Eric. Just let us know. Like Instagram us. We love
it. I know. It's all happening. Oh, can we come stalk you on Instagram? Oh, awesome. Yeah. I'll do that. Love Instagram.
Yeah, totally. So you're on a mission to change the whole concept of kind of career advice, right? Through self-development, self-exploration, and really connecting companies properly with communities, whilst, by the looks of it, having a real good laugh doing it, which sounds great to me. So any companies that effectively think, well, we would like to get in contact with Eric, send them your way, right?
Absolutely.
Exactly. So, thanks for the plug.
I think that's it. Thank you, guys. That was actually, there was
Thank you guys very much.
We've just realised that all career advice has always sucked, so at least it hasn't been generational. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Thank you again. Sorry, literally, I've got a disrupt HR talk that is just me ranting about this subject. So yeah, when Glenn said, I'm like, oh, what are you doing to me? But anyway.
Glenn said it would be amazing, and it has been.
And he was right. But it wouldn't have been amazing without our sponsor, Enterprise Alumni. I think I've now said that 3 times, so they owe me money.
Wicked.
Right. So, kidding. Thank you again. Thank you to everyone who's tuned in and listened. Particularly, I think it did go out by the event, so that was quite exciting. First time I've done that. Cool. And we shall see you all the same time next week. That would be 10 a.m. Eastern and 3 p.m. UK time. Is that okay, Glenn?
Yeah,
am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, that'll do.
Good.
Yeah.
See you all next week. Thank you for listening and all your questions and comments.
Bye.
Bye.